This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is July 14th, 2025. Jonathan Osborne here, and as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what's going on?
Not much, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, dude. First couple of Summer League games out of the way here. Sunday night's game in particular was as Summer League as it gets, which I know we will talk about. We also have a great conversation with our friend Dan Savage, working over there at OrlandoMagic.com as the director of digital news. Got to talk rebrand, Desmond Bane, Tyus Jones, Mo Wagner, rookies, Summer League, Uno, Boy Meets World. Like, you know, we got into all of it with Dan Savage, so appreciate him taking the time. So stay tuned for a little bit later in the episode to talk about that. But really quickly, if you're watching on YouTube, did you know that just 53% of the viewers of each of our videos on average are subscribed? So if you're here to the channel, whether you've been watching for a little bit or a lot of it, go ahead, click the subscribe button. Really helps out the channel a lot. If you want to click that bell, you can also get notifications anytime we upload videos, which is at least twice a week, all season long, even throughout the off season. And then during the season, 2 episodes a week, post-game lives after every episode. We're going to start pushing out more short-form content as well. We did a video of that last week. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and watch that, talking all about the Magic's perfect offseason in our completely biased opinions, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Magic news, not really Magic news, but I do still think it's relevant. We haven't really known what's going on with Cole Anthony after being traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. Shams reported yesterday, I believe that was either Friday or Saturday, that Memphis is working towards a buyout with Cole Anthony. It already seems like he has a team that he's going to in the Milwaukee Bucks, who definitely needs some guard help and some guard depth. So Cole Anthony traded to the Memphis Grizzlies, but it looks like he is on his way to Milwaukee. Still going to be a good team, playing with Giannis Antetokounmpo, so seems like a good situation for Cole Anthony.
And playing with Gary Harris, lest we forget.
Correct.
So reunited.
Depending how much that guy plays, but yeah.
Yeah, true. I would like permission to speak freely, Jonathan. Do I have that?
You always do.
Great. Here's what I'm about to say. I want to say this in the nicest way possible. Okay. What I'm about to say is zero disrespect towards any players or anything like that. I want us to once again briefly look at the Desmond Bane trade, because we were told by casuals and by national media, not all of them, but large sections, that this was a massive overpay. And obviously people talk about the draft picks, and that's fine, but a phrase that was used so commonly after that trade was, and the Magic gave up 2 very serviceable guards. Like, wow, they gave up 2 guys that are going to play, they're going to contribute to Memphis right away, and all these kinds of things. And I genuinely mean no disrespect to Cole Anthony. I really don't. But Memphis decided they didn't want to keep him. Memphis wanted to trade him. They did not have a trade market for Cole Anthony, so they had to buy him out, and now he is signing with the team of his choice, and it looks like Milwaukee. Again, as we've said for weeks now, ever since this trade, I wish nothing but the best for Cole Anthony. I hope he has a great career. I hope his next stop is what rejuvenates his career. However, looking at it from a Magic lens, look at the trade. Look at what it was. I got sick and tired of hearing national people hype all this stuff up. It's a tale as old as time. It's what I tweeted when this trade happens. Player plays for the Magic, no one talks about him. Player is traded from the Magic, and now he gets hyped up. And it happened again. It happened again. They hyped him up, but then reality sets in, and it's like, look, guys, we tried to tell you, but they don't listen. I'm done on my rant now. That's all I have to say.
So right now, if we kind of look at everything the way it's breaking down, the trade was, we traded away Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the 16th pick, which they ended up moving and using to draft Cedric Coward. It's the 2026 Washington Phoenix swap, a 2029 swap, and then a 2030 first that hopefully in 5 years, like the Magic are still going to be really good. So, and Cole Anthony, who they waived, which essentially like was deemed a negative asset, a guy who's, 24, 25 years old that you're buying out. Like those aren't usually buyout candidates at this point. And a guy who was making, I think like 12, $13 million a year. So I don't know what exactly their agreement came to, but like that, not a cheap move for Memphis to have to make, because Cole got traded. He's not about to leave, $10 million on the table just so he can go play somewhere else.
Right. And they're paying him to not play for their team now.
Right.
And again, not all I heard, I'm trying not to exaggerate. I heard frequently when the Bane trade happened was, they gave up. Wow, look at the guys they gave up. KCP and Cole Anthony, man. Cole Anthony, and now look how silly those people look. And again, it goes to show you, this is one of the main reasons why this show exists. You can't listen to the national media. They don't know everything. You can't listen to the casuals. Whether you're a Magic fan and you're looking for Magic content, or you're a Buccaneers fan, you're looking for Buccaneers content, whatever, go to the local sources. Go to the people that cover they know the team the most intimately. Doesn't mean we get it all right. We don't. Doesn't mean we're not biased, because we are. We get things wrong all the time. But we at least have a pretty good pulse on what's happening within this team, because that's all we know. It's all we do. We just watch this team. We love this team. And all I have to say, again, it just made the casuals in the national media look very silly once again.
Yeah. Apart from that, the Sham God, and Joe Prunty like coaching hires have been made official. The Magic announced that, later last week. So, but as we've been talking about, Sham God, who sounds like primarily was like, player development, a little bit of scouting stuff for Dallas as well. But like is a specialist at helping guys develop their handle. And for guys like Jase Richardson, Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, like the guys that we're really going to be giving the ball to a ton, that's going to be massive. And then Joe Prunty, which if you remember it, or maybe you haven't been following the team for that long, 2 seasons ago. So what would that have been? The 2023-2024 season. At the beginning of the year, the Magic lost head assistant at the time, Nate Tibbetts, who left to coach the WNBA team, the Phoenix Mercury, who by all accounts and from what we understand was kind of like the offensive coordinator, to a certain extent. And the Magic haven't really filled that role. But hiring Sham God, hiring Joe Prunty really seems like he's going to be the guy to fill that role. And now Jesse Mermis, who was one of the lead assistants for the Magic the last couple of years since Nate Tibbetts has left, he's also leaving for Phoenix, but he's leaving for the Phoenix Suns. So we did kind of have questions like the Magic are adding 2 assistants. Are there going to be any other moves to, the bench or the coaching staff? So Jesse Mermis is on his way out. So I'm excited for Joe Prunty, really both of these guys, but Joe Prunty especially, does bring a lot of that like baseline out of bounds, sideline out of bounds, like after timeout, kind of drawing up plays and stuff like that. So excited to hear a bit more, maybe at Media Day on what his responsibilities are going to be like specifically for Mosley's staff. But something that we have been asking, and Jamal Mosley was even asked about it in the exit interviews, like, would you consider bringing another person on staff to help with the offense? And Mosley said, we're going to leave no stone unturned, and was emphatically excited to get some offensive help. Like before, I forget who asked the question, but before they could even finish the question about, are you looking forward to getting some offensive help? He's like, yes, absolutely, yes. So, excited about both of those coaching hires.
Yeah, and also what I love about both of them, in addition to those things, they're both very well-respected, long-tenured NBA assistant coaches. These aren't some assistant coaches pulled from the college ranks, which isn't always a bad thing. I don't want to make it sound like that, but when guys have been around the league for double-digit years, multiple teams, same team, doesn't matter. They're well-respected, well-trusted. And so to be able to pull those guys away from their current situations, I think is a pretty big deal, and something I'm definitely excited to see how they mesh with Mosley and with the entire staff and players.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, this is kind of the dead part of the season in terms of like transactions and news. as we've talked about, in multiple pods and videos that we've put out, it does seem like the Magic's offseason is over. They may make one or two additional and kind of minor moves, but like transactionally, we're getting into like the dog days of summer here. And now we're into Summer League, which is where we're going to take the conversation now. Obviously, really excited to see Tristan da Silva, Jase Richardson, Noah Penda, some of the other guys on the roster as well. But so far, through 2 Summer League games, the Magic are 0-2 with combined 6-point margin of defeat. They lost by 3 points to the Kings on Thursday, lost to the Raptors by 3 on Sunday. Tristan da Silva 3 at the buzzer did not fall, which would have tied the game. So the Magic lose to the Raptors. And then the Magic were down, I want to say it was like, 9 or 10 points with like 4 minutes to go. And that game seemed like it was over. And then all of a sudden, like the Magic came back, cut it to 2 or cut it to 3, and ultimately weren't able to get the win there. But I did want to take a couple of minutes. We're not going to really talk too much about the overall like team performance because, 90% almost of the guys that are on these rosters aren't going to play, on the main roster for the Magic. And the way that the team is playing, I don't really think is as important. But obviously, we want to go through and talk about some of these guys. So I'm going to go through some of the box score stuff from the first 2 games. So from Thursday's game against the Kings, Tristan da Silva, I thought looked great. He had 19 points in 28 minutes, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Jase Richardson, 14 points, 5 of 8 from the floor, 2 of 3 from behind the arc. Had a 3 at the very beginning of that first Summer League game. There's like a pick and roll. Defender went under. He kind of just steps back, pulls up for 3, nothing but net. It was just nice to see a guy like with that skill set. And then Noah Penda, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. Did a little bit of everything. 4 of 9 from the floor, 0 of 3 from behind the arc. Had a kind of like rough like first quarter and a half. But as the game went on, like you saw, the defensive potential. You saw his like, I don't want to say he's a phenomenal passer, but he's a really good like connecting passer. And his ability to like use his body and, go and crash the boards, get rebounds, but also like be able to get in there and score and like finish over other defenders. Like those 3 guys specifically, like you saw the flashes and what the Magic. Tristan, year 2, we want to see that improvement. But especially like out of the rookies, like you're kind of seeing the vision that they have and the players that they can be. Scalabissier, who feels like has been in the league forever. I was a little bit surprised when I saw that he's 29 years old at this point. Was really good in that first game, 14 points, 5 rebounds. And then Ethan Thompson, the Magic have him on a 2-way. He had 16 points in 25 minutes in the first game, was 3 of 6 from behind the arc. So a guy that's able to add a little bit of shooting. And then we'll talk about Sunday's game as well against the Raptors, which was the most Summer League game I think I have ever watched. To give you an idea of what that means, these 2 teams combined for 63 free throws. And let's see, it was 59 personal fouls and 51 turnovers in this game. Like, was as ugly as it gets, but Tristan da Silva, 18 points, 6 of 13 from the floor, 3 of 7 from behind the arc. Started the game, 3 straight threes, like corner 3, then like step back from the right wing, hit a 3 as well. I think the Magic started the game up 2-0, and then like he goes on his little run, and it's like 11-4, like really early on in that game. But Tristan was really solid. Jase Richardson, 19 points, 7 out of those 19 came in the second half. 5 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 3 from behind the arc, but 8 of 9 at the free throw line. A 6'1" guard. As physical as this game was, the Magic only shot 20 free throws. The Raptors shot 43. I know I'm the guy that always complains about officiating. It took everything in me not to comment on it during this game, but I don't feel like the Magic got a fair whistle. Like the Raptors were just so physical. But for Jase to have 9 free throws as a 6'1" guard, I've just been really impressed, obviously, with his shot-making ability. We talked about how the handle needs, some work. Very left-hand dominant right now. Like Jamal Shed for the Raptors kind of sniffed that out early in the game and kind of gave Jay some problems. I think that's what led to his first half being so quiet. But like in the second half, like multiple finishes at the rim, like going into the trees, finishing through contact. had the play with like a minute and 10 seconds left where he's got the ball at the top of the key. Magic are down 4, tries to go left, kind of gets double teamed, has to go the other way. There's another third help defender coming over. He splits that with the right hand, gets back to the left, the floater from the right elbow to cut the lead to 2 with about a minute to go. I've just been really impressed with him. And then Noah Penda, like the box score isn't super flashy. 9 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, was a plus 19 in this game, like was making such an impact. And he's just a very smart basketball player, like knows where to be on defense for the most part, has like pretty good feel offensively, does miss like some passes. Sometimes it feels like maybe he's trying to do a little bit too much. Hit a 3 in this game. He's now 1 for 6 through 2 games. So the shooting, as we talked about after the draft, definitely needs a lot of help. But just a guy that is showing I don't have to score a lot. I can make impact in different ways and is doing that with the 14 rebounds. And then Alondas Williams was really good off the bench. 14 points, 405 from behind the arc. Wendell Moore Jr. had a really great game, 22 points off the bench. Scalabissier, after having a really good first game, was kind of like a non-factor in this one. And then Kyler Kelly, who's been the starting center for the Magic in both of these games, has had like really, really rough showings. Just not giving you a lot of positives. I don't want to go too deep and go in on Kyler too much, but it's just like really, 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 really struggled through the first 2 games. Like hasn't really looked like an NBA player, but through 2 games, 0-2. It's not really about the result of these games as it is like seeing what you have in some of these guys, specifically Tristan, Noah, and Jason. I feel like all 3 of them have looked awesome.
Yeah, a couple things that have stood out to me, and it's similar to what you said, but the physicality of both Jase Richardson and Noah Penda has stood out to me. Like Noah Penda, you kind of expect it, like when we saw him drafted, heard about his frame, saw some of his highlights and clips and stuff from France. You're like, yeah, I mean, he's a big body and knows how to use it, like you mentioned, especially in that first game, seeing him get to the rim and just kind of shrug guys off and all that kind of stuff. That's all great. But Jase Richardson is who has surprised me, as you don't always think of smaller guards, again, 6'1", being physical. But I think Jase Richardson is a physical basketball player on both ends. Like you mentioned, and we knew this going into it, like his ability to get to the rim at Michigan State finish through contact, all those things. We're seeing a little bit of that in Summer League. But even on the defensive end, like he's very physical, and that it's almost one of those things like you got to make up for your size in some way as a basketball player, as a defender. I mean, you got to make up make up your size for your size. And I guess one of the ways he does that is with his physicality, which is great. Another thing that has stood out to me, and it involves Penda and Richardson, but really it's the whole team. I've been very impressed in stretches with the ball movement of this team. Like a lot of unselfish passes. A lot of it, though, is being initiated sometimes by even Jase Richardson. Like we've seen Jase Richardson do a fair amount of like driving, kicking, or making the extra pass and all that kind of stuff. And then you already talked about Noah Penda. The thing with Penda for me is he's athletic, but he's not like fluid. I don't know how best to describe it. Like obviously he's very physical, like we talked about.
I think he does a really good job of using his body.
Sure. But I wouldn't describe him as a very fluid player.
No.
Like his movements and stuff aren't fluid, but you can see that basketball IQ, which again is a phrase we hear all the time, especially from, Jeff Weltman, all that kind of stuff. But you can see it though, right? Like he has made a couple of very nice passes defensively, great decision making so far. And so yeah, he's such an interesting player to me though. Like I can't figure it out. Like
he's averaging 2.5 steals per game.
Yeah,
through the first couple of games, just like been really disruptive, like in the right spots, and like for a young player like that to know how to use his body to get angles and like gain advantages on defenders, like that's pretty advanced stuff for a guy who isn't like jump out of the gym,
right,
end to end super athletic.
Right, and that's the thing. I find him very interesting because I feel like if his athleticism was just a little bit more like, and it's not even again true athleticism. It's almost like the way you watch him. Like it's hard to explain. But again, if he was a more fluid, more explosive athlete, I feel like he would have been way higher on draft boards. But like and again, the shooting I think could be the other part of that. But outside of that, I think he's a good basketball player, especially getting him at 32. I feel super happy with it, and I can see why the front office has decided to go ahead and lock him up as part of this roster going forward.
Yeah, when you see a guy like this, like with his frame and his feel, like there's a reason that he felt at 32. And I think in watching some of like the, like scouting videos and stuff like that, as we did like our pre-draft research, I think I remember something that up until like this season, like he was a little bit heavier. So he's like worked on his body and like trimmed down, and that's what kind of allowed him to get into the position to be drafted. But I do still think once he gets like more into like an NBA like strength and training regimen, and just over the course of the season, as his continues to work on his body and maybe slims down a little bit more, I think he moves pretty well, but it's just a little heavier, I think, than most like NBA guys that you see like at least at his position. So, but like the conditioning doesn't seem to be an issue for him. But I'm right there with you. Like if he was a jump out of the gym kind of athlete, he would have been a late, lottery kind of guy, because teams would just be taking a swing on a guy with athleticism and feel, even though the shooting isn't really there. But hey, there's a reason that he was there at 32 and the Magic jumped up to get him. And to your point about Jase, like I think I tweeted this out during the first game, but he plays bigger than his size at 6'1". Like guys were trying to post him up in that first game, and they were having relative success, but it wasn't like they were doing it with ease. Like he was making them earn it. And if there's anything that I can say, like right now, it seems like the bench unit, the guards are going to be AB and Tyus Jones. But if at any point that becomes Jase Richardson, which I think probably has to be your goal with the deal that Tyus is on, and the salary cap situation being what it is Tyus might just be a 1-year rental, and then you're hoping that in that time, Jase can get to the point where you can kind of plug him in next. But obviously, injuries happen, foul trouble happens, all that kind of stuff. We are going to see Jase in that unit at some point. And I don't know that compared to like guys that we had in those spots last year that he's necessarily like a ceiling riser, but he's going to lift your floor a little bit. Like just with, not really turning the ball over a ton, like one turnover in this game, in a game where your team had almost 30 turnovers. Yeah. Jase had one playing 25 minutes.
Wow.
And then in that first game also had one turnover. So all the talk we've heard about him being a good decision maker, takes care of the basketball, we're seeing all of that. He's, was 1 for 3 in this game from behind the arc and was 2 for 3. So what is that? 3, 4, 6. So 50% from the 3 in between, these two games here. So the ability just to knock down open shots, move the ball well, doesn't make mistakes. And like, I do think eventually he's going to be maybe you wouldn't call him a plus defender, but a guy that's just like not necessarily like a negative on that end with, like you talked about, the physicality that he plays with, but also like the anticipation and like the hand skills that he has and like the long wingspan. We've heard everybody talk about that. Like, I think Jase is going to be really solid, and his ability to like go in amongst the trees and finish through contact. That's something that stops a lot of smaller guards from, being more dynamic and being able to play with different lineups. And then when you just look at what he could be defensively, even with his limited size, I'm really excited. I didn't know that I would feel like this coming away from the first 2 Summer League games, but I mean, we haven't even barely talked about Tristan. The Magic aren't going to ask him to do a ton, on the ball, but a second-year player who's already been through an NBA season, who looked good, really good at times during an NBA season, you just want him to play and look like he's too good for Summer League, and Tristan da Silva looks like he's too good for Summer League. So I wouldn't be, too surprised if we only see him for like maybe another game. He might be done already, but maybe we'll see him for another game. But all 3 of those guys have looked awesome. I think Ethan Thompson, has looked solid, which is good because we're going to have him on a 2-way. The rest of the guys, like it is a Summer League roster. Not to be disrespectful, but that's what it is.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You say, you're getting excited, seeing these guys, but at the end of the day, Summer League is just brutal to watch. It's so tough, especially, and again, this sounds snobby, but for those of us who watch I mean, really watch NBA basketball for 9 months out of the year. Like every other night, we're seeing the best players in the world. It's a reminder of the gap between, and this is the gap between the NBA players and, summer league, G League type players. And then there's the gap between them and us. And so while I do sit here and say it's tough to watch, still way better than you and I trying to play some basketball.
You haven't even been at one of our Court of Dreams days yet. That's the real basketball. That's the worst basketball you'll ever see on that floor. I can promise you that. But no, at least we have a good time, and we're 2 years now without anybody getting hurt, which is always important. But yeah, with summer league, especially for our team and the aspirations that the team has, this is what you wanted to see. You wanted to see the guys that you're heavily invested in. You want to see those guys look good, and I've been super impressed. Like Noah Penda at 32 looks like a legitimate, maybe not right now, but someday like a legitimate rotation guy. And for you to get that at 32, and Jase Richardson, looks like a guy who I don't know if he's a starter ever. Maybe he could be. I'm not trying to put a ceiling on him, but like I feel really confident that he could at least be like a really high level, like a plus, a rotation player, like on a second unit on a good team. Like I could see him helping a team win playoff games and win playoff series and all that kind of stuff. So been pretty exciting so far. Want to look up, I keep forgetting to do this, to look up the rest of the summer league schedule, Kevin. I don't know if you have that.
Tuesday is the next one, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have it in front of me.
They play the Thunder on Tuesday on NBA TV
champs.
at 6:30.
Oh man!
And then on Wednesday as well, 7:30 on NBA TV and ESPN Plus. And then after that, like starting on Saturday, that would be like the summer league tournament.
Which, by the way, I'll just let everybody know, because I know everybody was trying to figure it out. The Magic will not be in the championship game. No.
Yeah, they will not.
0-2, they're out.
They'll probably be in the consolation bracket. Is where they'll probably end up.
That's correct, yeah.
It's a weird feeling, and I had to remind myself of this watching the game tonight. Like, this doesn't really matter. Like, I'm getting upset in the way I would normally get upset, like watching the game, and I'm like, oh, but yeah, this actually doesn't matter now. Like, we're good. We're kind of, not to say summer league doesn't really matter, but it doesn't really matter.
Right.
So the guys that we need to look good have looked good. Everything else is just kind of blah,
Yeah. I'm going to take a moment to interrupt ourselves and tell you about our friends at Jam Hot Chicken. Jam Hot Chicken, they're bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. We love Jam Hot Chicken, Andrew and their entire team over there, because not only do they make really stinking good food, they're also die-hard Orlando Magic fans who love this fan community. And you can find them and their lovely food over at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square there in beautiful Winter Park. You can also visit them on their website at jamhotchickenfl.com, where you can check out their menu, order online, and see all things Jam Hot. And of course, you can follow them on social media at Jam Hot Chicken. First off, if you do nothing else from hearing us talk about this right now, just go follow them on social media. Follow them on Instagram. You won't regret it, because you're going to see all the really tasty stuff. And plus, you're going to support a local business who loves the Magic. So maybe you can't get to Winter Park. Maybe you can't order Uber Eats, they're in the Winter Park area, and get Jam Hot Chicken. But the least you can do is follow them on social media. It's free. And if and when you do go visit Jam Hot Chicken in person and get that yummy, tasty food, just let them know that the Six Man Show sent you.
This episode is also brought to you by Luis Rosario, Brynjar Halderson, AJ Burst, Ray Pastrana, Irish Magic Mike. These are some of our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons. So they went over to patreon.com/the Six Man Show and joined either the Hall of Fame or Elite tier level. We have other levels as well with additional benefits like access to our Discord community. We have close to 100 Magic fans who are in there talking not only Magic basketball, but really all things like pop culture, video games, movies, TV shows, all that kind of stuff year round. So if you're just looking for a good community, talk Magic basketball, talk about other interests that you have, the Discord is a great way to get connected. And to do that, we also give a special shout out to brand new patrons whenever we have them. So shout out to Steve G, who joined at our Elite tier level, and he went and paid for the entire year up front, which gives you a pretty significant discount. So a big thank you to Steve G. If you like what we're doing here, whether you've been listening for a little bit or a lot of bit, and you want to help us continue this mission of growing this Orlando Magic fan community, you can head on over to patreon.com/the6man show to join and pick whatever tier works best for you. We can't do anything that we do here without our patrons, so we thank you all so much. Let's go ahead and get back to the episode. Okay, let's go ahead and bring in our friend Dan Savage. And now, Magic fans, we are joined by a very special guest, good friend of the program, OrlandoMagic.com, Director of Digital News, our guy, Dan Savage. What's going on, man? How are you? Thanks for joining the show again.
What's up, boys? This is an exciting time to be chatting with you guys.
And I understand, Dan, you are fresh off a trip to Vegas. You got to witness the Magic's first Summer League game there. I have a really important Vegas question for you. I don't know if you heard the big news. Vegas is now bringing, starting soon, Uno as a table game at some of these casinos. I'm curious, next year when you go back for Summer League, do you see yourself sitting at an Uno table and throwing down some cold hard cash on an Uno game?
Well, I'll hit you with the reverse card. If you guys make it out there, will you be playing? So that'll answer your question in part one. In part one, yes, I would play some of that and see my hands. It's a little bit of the Vegas Vacation-esque, where you go to that B-list casino, for those who have seen the movie, and start playing all those games like rock, paper, scissors, and war. Absolutely, I would test my hand in a game like that.
Well, I'm going to hit the skip card. Kev, are you going to play Uno if you're in Vegas? Because you seem like a big Uno guy.
I love Uno. I'm just leaving it at that. I love Uno. Don't tempt me with a good time. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Well, Dan, one of the things that we did want to talk to you about, because I know we have you on the pod each year around this time, but never so close, like literally in the middle of Summer League. So for fans who... Obviously, you watch Summer League on TV and you see, the basketball product is what it is. But what's the experience like of being there? Because as someone who hasn't been there, obviously you hear all the stories, but it just seems like a basketball fan paradise almost.
No, absolutely. The venue itself is, very intimate. That's why you see, if you follow on social media, so many players taking pictures with fans, front office people, etc. It's a smaller gym, so more intimate section. There's not a bad seat in the house. And then for somebody who's traveling with the team, it's probably the most relaxed. You'll see a lot of the front office and high-end coaches, so, your head coach, et cetera, who are not necessarily participating in Summer League. So everybody's a little bit more relaxed. The major moves have been made. And then when you're staying in the hotel, like, for example, the hotel the Magic stayed in this year, there's 14 other teams staying there. So when you come down to the lobby or the casino floor, area, restaurant, et cetera, you're running into somebody from a team. So it's just like bumping into everybody. So, from the hotel we were staying at, if I walked from one end to the other, a walk that would take maybe 10 minutes takes like an hour, because you're bumping into people, you're catching up. So it's not an easy thing. Like, I was talking to my wife, I was like, I'll be back in the room in like 5 minutes. And then I didn't call her till like 2 hours later. And I was like, I just kept running into people I know. But it's so good, especially this time of year, catching up with all the moves teams made, hearing why they made them. So much talk was around the Magic, people wanting to know about the Desmond Bane trade, what their thoughts were, et cetera. So it's really fun to be the buzz of Summer League. And I feel like the Magic right now, up there with like the Rockets and a few other teams, are really the talk of Summer League right now for the offseason they had.
Here in a little bit, Dan, we'll ask you a little more specifics about, some of the young guys that the Magic are rolling out there for Summer League and your thoughts on that. But first, I want to go back, a little over a month now, the start of all of the Orlando Magic buzz. Like, it's been a crazy month, but it kind of all started the first week of June when they rolled out the new rebrand. I'm wearing the new logo. I saw the logo on your jacket a second ago. There it is, looking great. Remind me first off, Dan, and remind our listeners, what year did you join the team with the Magic? What year was that?
Yeah, so I started at the beginning of the 2008-2009 season. Okay. So my first year, go to the finals. I'll take some credit for that.
That's
for
right.
Doing absolutely nothing besides being there. So yeah, good year to join the Magic. And, that was really when they were pushing for the secondary logo to start taking, I'm going to steal another logo term here, but a primary, phase where they wanted that to be, one of the logos that was seen everywhere. You see it, you start to notice it. So, I came into that a little bit. It was the 20th anniversary at that time. I was like, that's got to be wrong because we're at 35. But no, that's how long I've been here. It was the 20th anniversary of the team. So, so those logos were circulating at the time, and it's really interesting to, see this iteration of it. Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask. So you've been here since 08, 09, and now we have this whole new look. We actually talked with you that day, at the event, but kind of let our listeners know, our viewers know, what do you think of it? How does it resonate with you? And how do you think it's going to look this year with the players actually wearing those uniforms?
So, it's funny you say that because there's just so much work that goes into it that throughout the staff, people being in focus groups, as you guys know, people doing hard work led by Shelley Wilkes, the DeVos family, Alex, Charlie, et cetera. You go down the list. There's just a ton of people involved in these meetings, coming up with the logo guy, third-party companies, et cetera. So just so much work that goes into what the final product is. But what I liked about it is, look, me personally, I love the iconic original, look of the Magic. I grew up in that era. So, it resonates with me. The fans always seem to love it. I mean, you look at any comments from, past era mentioning that. Anytime the Magic would go back to throwbacks, fans would eat those jerseys up, et cetera, in droves. So the fact that all that came to, a culmination along with modernizing it in a way, I think really hit all the big points home that you could imagine. So to just watch that unfold over time, I wasn't too involved in it, but just to see that was special. And then what I really think, I knew what they were trying to do with the jersey that's, half black, half blue for the fans, that aren't familiar with the logo terminology or the jersey terminology. When I first saw that on renderings, I was like, I see what they're going for. And then you see it in person. I was like, holy cow, that went from being perhaps one I was on the fence about to perhaps my favorite. So I think when fans see it, you guys were in the building to see the court and all the stuff of it. I think their minds are going to be blown and really impressed with the final product, because that's how I felt when you saw it all in person. You're like, okay, this really hits different.
So that was the first week of June. And then about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks later, the massive blockbuster trade for Desmond Bane. What was your initial reaction to the move? And then what do you think that does for the team heading into next season?
It's funny. We all have different ideas of how you could, improve the team. And Desmond Bane was one that came up during the season when the Grizzlies hit a rough patch. And, kind of again, when, Taylor Jenkins was let go. And it was just like, would he be a good fit of somebody the Magic could target, et cetera? And when you look at it, it's like, yes, perfect fit. So the fact that they were able to get him and nail him down is really special. Because I think, what a lot of fans don't realize, everybody thinks like, oh, this guy's available, go get this guy, go this guy. There are only so many guys that are actually available. And, some guys it takes convincing. A guy like Desmond Bane, who's so well beloved by so many people there in Memphis. And so for Jeff to be able to do that and then do it without giving any of the core young pieces up on this roster, I think was really special. As he alluded to, I think if you're drawing up a player that was a perfect fit for this roster, it would be Desmond. A guy who could be an additional playmaker, a guy who could shoot the three at a high level and still not sacrifice any of your defensive identity. It's him. So, and then for it actual to come to fruition is a testament to Jeff, his staff, and his ability to convince him to do this trade. And I think it's one of those trades that really works out well for both sides too, because for Memphis, they had made runs at it. It wasn't working. And you look at, ways you could try to improve their roster. They get some extra picks, cap flexibility, over the long term, and try to do things out that way. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out for both sides, but I really like it for the Magic. And I think it makes their starting lineup extremely balanced and perhaps one of the best in the East.
Dan, across the Magic fan universe, if you will, there's a very, very clear sense of hope and of promise and of potential for this coming season and seasons to come, obviously accelerated by the Bain trade. Add a sprinkle of a rebrand in there and a couple good draft picks, and like the hype is really high. I'm wondering, do you guys, that work for the team, like has that gotten into your bubble? Like you sense that now? Like you sense that same level of anticipation for this season? Is that something you guys feel?
Yeah, no, there's so many people that you talk to that have been there for a long time. They're like, I haven't been this excited for a season since the Dwight era, and you could really feel that. It hasn't been much of an off season because there's something happening literally every week. It's the rebrand, it's the trade, it's free agency, it's the draft, etc. Summer league. So, really after summer league ends will be the first kind of pause of news and action. So it's been great for us who all create content because seemingly there's something new to talk about every week. But yeah, it's been a buzz. It's been a lot of excitement, and you could really feel that around the office.
Moving on from, as you just mentioned, straight from the trade into free agency and the draft, the Magic, bringing back Mo Wagner, adding Tyus Jones, and then being able to add Jase Richardson and Noah Penda through the draft. How important do you think it was to bring Mo back? And then what do you think of the new additions in Tyus, Jase, and Noah?
Yeah, I think, Mo, bringing him back is one of those moves that, people on the outside the organization or outside the fan base may not value as much because, he's just not as big of a name. But for those of us here in Orlando, those of us who've been around Mo Wagner, know how important he is to this team. And you saw that when he went down with the injury. I thought the Magic lost a little bit of that bravado, a little bit of that edge that Mo and Jalen both brought. And you lose both those guys, you kind of feel it. That kind of irrational, like we could be down 15 and we're still going to bring it and talk smack, etc. So I really love him back for the locker room, what that means. He's a guy, regardless of, whether it's game 1, game 82, is bringing the same type of vibe throughout the season, brings it in practice, which, the course of the practice 62 mid-season. Some guys could lose the juice a little bit, and never Mo Wagner. He's bringing it. He's talking it. So I just love that move, and I think it works out for both sides, gives Mo a chance to recover from his injury and prove himself. And for the team, just getting another valuable player who's in the running of 6 Man of the Year talk. So glad to see that fit. And then you get on to Tyus Jones, etc. What I like about Tyus is great at knocking down open shots, low turnover numbers, and an additional playmaker for this unit. So when you're talking about a checklist for this team for the offseason, those two moves really help hit it.
And now let's turn our attention to the rookies. As we mentioned, you were in Vegas for at least the first Summer League game, and we're recording this after the second one on Sunday night. What have you seen so far from Jase Richardson, Noah Penda through these first couple games? Anything surprise you, or how are you feeling about those two guys so far?
Yeah. First of all, both really nice kids. Like, the one thing that Jeff and Anthony Parker and back to John Hammond, these guys don't miss on is just high character guys that are easy to root for. I mean, how long has it been since Magic have brought in a guy you're like, it's really hard to root for this guy because he's not a good guy. It just doesn't happen. I think it's something that as you go into a summer league setting and you're around all these other teams and what their environments are like, that you realize maybe we take for granted a little bit here in Orlando, that all these guys are good, they fit in well, etc. And I think both these guys are that to a T. They mentioned them having Magic DNA, and you could see them exude that. Jase is just, a really level, cool, calm cat, very willing to talk. And then Noah, he's got an intensity, and I think you could see that carry over to the court. He's all about basketball. He eats, sleeps, breathes it. He was very excited for the summer league opportunity, and brings it from start to finish. So what I like about both those guys is from the baseline, they have that Magic type character. Now, Jase, check the box again in this offseason if we want guys who could shoot, propel the offense. And at the same time with him, although he's on the smaller side, I think you've seen in Summer League, he's not necessarily sacrificing on defense as well. He's very pesky. I think he can develop into the type of defender that you're not feeling like, oh, this guy's a liability on that end of the floor. It's hard to play him in a playoff series. I think he can really develop into that, product of playing at Michigan State under Tom Izzo. And then Penda, I mean, he's a just jack of all trades. And I think we're seeing that early where he's going to stuff the stat sheet, double-digit rebounds, high number of deflections per game, generating offense through his defense. He just seems like the kind of guy that in the second round is an absolute steal. And right now it's projecting that way. So good job on Jeff and his crew really digging deep in finding something there.
At the beginning of the offseason, kind of by way of, the Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton injuries, that it's felt like the East has become, wide open, and the Desmond Bane trade kind of happened during that last, part of the finals there. But even apart from that, like if all parts are healthy, the moves that the Magic have made, at least from like a fan perspective, it feels like even with a healthy Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton, the Celtics and the Pacers at full strength, the Magic could still be in position to compete in the East. But with it is wide open. At least it seems that way. What's your opinion? Like your feeling? Did the Magic have a real chance to compete and come out of the East and maybe make a finals run this year?
No, I think the East is wide open, and there's no reason why the Magic can't be in contention to advance further in the playoffs and make a run. You look at what's out there, there's other teams that have a little bit more experience. Cleveland, is probably going to be in that conversation. New York is going to be in that conversation. And, after that, I think, right up with them, the Magic match up. I think probably there's scenarios where some other teams could be in contention, if things break the right way for them. But right now, I like the Magic chances as much as any team in the East. And it's just a matter of, do they have enough experience? Can they get through a playoff series and then gain momentum? Because as we saw, my first season with the Magic, I think that first series with Philly was a test. It wasn't easy. People with Jameer out were like, well, how far can this team really go? Are they going to get knocked out in the first round? And you win a hard-fought series, and next thing you know, the ball starts rolling, and you're playing the Celtics, and you're in 7 games, and you beat Boston in 7 in their own building. And it's like, well, why can't we hang with Cleveland? And so it's that kind of thing. You just have to get there, gain the experience of winning a series, and I think then that momentum can carry you a long way.
Now, Dan, since you have been with the team since 08-09, that means obviously you had some really great years at the beginning and some really tough years in the middle. Okay, so I want to know, how does it feel now that we've come through some of those, really low times? We Magic fans know. How does it feel to start to be, covering a winner again? Obviously, 2 seasons ago, winning 47 games, great first round series against Cleveland. Last year, derailed by injuries. We all know the story. But now that incline looks like it's still continuing. Does that really excite you now when it comes time to go to work?
No, it definitely, it's weird because it affects every aspect of things. Like even Summer League, take it. Summer League used to be a place where you're like, the future of right now is on display. Like what kind of season we're going to be having is what we kind of see from these guys through Summer League practices and through Summer League action. And now the team is in a place where, regardless of what happens in Summer League, you don't really think it has an impact on what happens game 1 of this regular season. And so that is big. And then even the way you just cover the team, when you're, in the rougher stretches, you're so much looking to the future. How does this moment, potentially affect, a season or 2 down the road? What the team learns from a 10-game winning or a 10-game tough stretch or a 10-game road streak, et cetera, can all have an impact on future things. But now you're really looking at things like, how does this player, can he get into the rotation? This back end guy, can he have an impact? What are we seeing out of this grouping? Do we have to switch these things up to make it work? Those are all things you can analyze that when you're looking at a team that's, potentially going to finish with 30 wins doesn't really matter, but do with a team that's, in contention for potentially 50 wins. So, you have to look at it through that different lens. And I think that's really exciting because, that's what it's all about. You want to be winning. And I think the great part for the Magic with the position they're in with guys predominantly from 22 to now, Desmond just turned 27. For guys in that kind of range, you have a long window. So you can both analyze the now and still analyze how this impacts the future. So everything's really on the table in terms of how you cover them because they have the opportunity to win now. They have the opportunity to win next season and the season after that because that's the way they're built. And so that's what you really like about the construction of this team is even when they took a big swing and added a guy, he's not a guy who's only like a 2-year rental. He fits right into this core. And that gives the opportunity for this group to really have a long runway.
Again, Dan, with you joining the team the 08-09 season and obviously, still a part of the organization now, I think it's so interesting because like that 08-09 team had moderate expectations that they would be a good team and, would be competitive, but nobody really expected them to make a finals run. And now we have this team who hasn't really proven much on the floor yet, but there are kind of these expectations that, they'll win a first round series, maybe even a second round series, make the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe even make the finals. Are there any parallels that you see between like that 08-09 team and this team, given like the perception of the expectations feel, pretty different?
Yeah, I would say, what you felt then is you probably had a little bit more established guys in the 08-09. Dwight was already a multi-time All-Star. They had knocked on the door a bit, had some of the struggles of going up against the Pistons, some hard-fought series there, their series against the Raptors, etc. I think the big similarity, and David Steele brought this up, and I thought it would make a good beginning of the season, is this anything, was, when you look back at the Shaq Penny era, they brought in Horace Grant. When you look at, the Dwight era with Hito, Jameer, they brought in Rashard Lewis, and he was a big propel. And I think with Desmond Bane, it can be the similar type of catalyst. And the one thing that stood out to me about Dez, in addition to him being the perfect on-court fit, is so much behind the scenes. He's already trying to reach out to guys and get things organized. He's reached out to Paolo, like, how can we get together? To Franz, doing the same type of thing. And then, trying to organize something before the season where some of the guys get together and work out as well. So he's really seemingly a great fit from a locker room. And talking to people in Memphis too, the one thing about him is like he doesn't carry himself as like a guy who's made it already, even though he's got the contract, where he got rewarded for his duties. He still carries himself with a chip on his shoulder, like wanting something to prove, like I am an all-star caliber player, etc. So I think he's a great fit because I could see him being a guy who's still on the ascension of where he has to go, and also being, still a good leader in the locker room as a guy who's had hard-fought playoff series under his belt. So I see him kind of as like a young vet, not like an aging vet who's like the old head, but like a young vet who knows what needs to be done, but is also putting in the work himself to elevate his game and get to that level. So I think that's just contagious when you put it with guys like Franz, P, Jalen, who are all just relentless workers who are trying to get better. And that, not to mention guys like Anthony Black, who just lives in the Advent Health Training Center all off season. So they have a lot of guys who work hard, and I think Dez is just another one of them. And he could be that type of catalyst like Rashard, Horace Grant were in the past to help propel the Magic to the next level.
Now, Dan, as we wrap up here, having you on the show, obviously we know that all the listeners, all the viewers, they are just clamoring. They're like, we can't let Dan go until we have the patented Boy Meets World segment. And so this time I wanted to turn the tables and host my own Boy Meets World. I'm just kidding. I don't know anything about Boy Meets World. So I'll let Jonathan and Dan, take it from here. Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah, as we talk about the wonderful and esteemed show that Dan's brother Ben starred in for years and years. It's tradition now that we have a little bit of Boy Meets World trivia at the end, and Dan and I, neither of us remember kind of whose turn it is, who went last. So I figured I would just I think this one's going to be pretty easy for Dan, but
I'm jet lagged, so this is probably like my roughest podcast performance because my brain is foggy. And then I'm not in the middle of a Boy Meets World watch cycle right now. About like the only thing outside of sports I've watched is like Love Island, and I'm getting hammered by the
Very
wife
similar to
right
Boy
now.
Meets World.
I'm delaying the. I think the finale or something must be airing, but we're a few episodes behind because I was on the road. In addition to the finale airing, so I'm getting the signal that hey, we have to catch up on some of this. So
Boy Meets World, definitely Love Island adjacent, right? Like there, a little bit of a love triangle there, and in season, is that season 4, season 5? I think it's season 5.
Like that we have some guys who are into Love Island. Some of that social content's leaked out a little bit with Tyus and Tristan, and so I've had some of those conversations with them. So maybe Kevin and I will get on the Love Island watching train, and then we could have trivia about that separate from you.
Yeah, I'll have to get caught up on that one.
Yeah, he'll have to start it to get caught up on that one.
Right,
But yeah, for sure. Okay, so in season 7, so the college years, there's an episode of like the prank wars, which I think we've had another prank wars similar question before, but there's like an alternate universe that happens in this, and Eric comes back just all kind of disheveled. So my trivia question, kind of a two-parter. One is like the main question, then the other will be, I guess, for like bonus points. You remember Eric's character's name at that point, and what does he? Thank you. And then what does he keep around his neck?
I know he pulls a lollipop out of his beard.
That's it. It's the lollipop. He's got it on a necklace. He keeps it behind his beard, and then. Yeah, so look at that. I told you it was going to be a softball. Got up there, knocked it out of the park. And I try to tell everyone, if you haven't watched Boy Meets World, you have to give it a shot.
Riding a bike. It's like riding a bike.
There you go. And maybe this will inspire, even though the 7th season is terrible, maybe that'll inspire your next Boy Meets World rewatch.
That's the risky part, and you make a good point there because it's one of the seasons that doesn't make every playback. Go through, you may play seasons 1 to college years and pause and then circle back. And so you don't always get all the way through, but, it was one of the things that was addressed in the many moons ago that you were supposed to join us at the Boy Meets World live show, but Big Time just didn't show up because you had Comic-Con and other star things to go through.
No. What happened for the listeners, myself, Dan, and Kamran, who used to work with the Osceola Magic, we were supposed to go to the Pod Meets World live show, and I'm at 90s Con like the day or two before it's supposed to happen, and I'm thinking it's like the following week, and I meet this Magic fan in line as I'm waiting to meet Mr. Feeney. He's like, "Oh, are you going to that thing? Like, I think it was like Sunday." I was like, "What do you mean? Oh, it's like next Friday." He's like, "No, I have tickets. It's definitely Sunday." And then I look it up, and sure as it sure was. And we already had, the pod scheduled and everything like that. So didn't have to big time, but I definitely had to bail, unfortunately. And I don't know that I'll ever forgive myself for that. But that was not my proudest moment. But Kevin's not at all surprised to hear that happened.
No, hey, no, you said it. No, it happens. Yeah. It happens. It happens to the best of us, Jonathan. It's all good.
The next go around, I'll have trivia questions that could only be answered by if you attended that.
Oh, perfect.
Having me real deep dives.
That'll be great. I don't know how caught up you are on the pod, like Pod Meets World, but my listening of that definitely has slowed as they've gotten into the later seasons because it's not as great. And I know that they're going to be like, this show is not anything like the first, 4.5, 5 seasons. And I know they're not going to like it. So I've kind of slowed down on that a little bit. But we have had listeners, Dan, who have gone to watch Boy Meets World just based off of the conversations that we've had on this show. And at least like 1 or 2 of them believe.
With Boy Meets World, we've done our job.
That's right. That is right. My kids hate it.
Part of my retirement, letter, it'll be like, all these things with the Magic. And finally, if I got one person to watch Boy Meets World all the way through, then did our job.
We've got the kids. They've started to watch Full House, which they love. But the girls, for whatever reason, they hate Boy Meets World. I think it's because boy is in the name. And like, that's a show for boys or whatever. I'm like, it's really not.
Have we tried Girl Meets World?
Well, you have to get through. It's like a prerequisite to get to that point. But I don't know. Like maybe they would enjoy that more.
I don't know.
I've not heard good things.
Okay, all right, maybe we'll get on.
Well, Dan Savage, we'll spare Kevin here the Boy Meets World talk, but we always appreciate you joining the show, and especially just getting back from Summer League yesterday. You know, baby and all that awesome stuff, and the wife obviously waiting to watch Love Island. So appreciate you taking the time in, and definitely looking forward to this season.
No, absolutely, guys. It should be a fun ride. And hopefully, the next time we're talking after a big Magic win streak, and then they're positioning the East, and we have multiple guys heading to All-Star Weekend. That would be a nice time to re-catch up and celebrate all that's happened in the early part of the season. I'm trying to manifest that kind of early start to the year after some of the struggles that we had to go through last year. Hopefully, karma, the kind of cyclical nature of things, everything goes smoothly, and we have a real exciting start to the season.
Well, we've been a little delusional over here. We're talking about travel plans for next June, so we will definitely manifest as much as we possibly can. But yeah, Dan Savage, the man, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Always appreciate Dan Savage taking the time. One of my favorite Magic employees. Just overall great dude. Great for the vibes. We didn't even talk about this, but he volunteers at like a wolf shelter, like all the time, like taking care of massive, like dire wolf looking creatures. And is just
crazy.
Awesome human being. Great at his job. Just always appreciate the time. And Summer League, we talked about how it doesn't really matter at this point, but like just to get out there to experience it once, I definitely think we need to do that. Certainly before we're like a lottery team again, and it's like, very meaningful.
Yeah. It feels almost like it's like summer camp for NBA fanatics or NBA employees or whatever. It's like he was saying, you can just be walking down your hotel and, out comes a player or, a coach or a writer from, that market or whatever. And so, yeah, someday we'll have to do that. And maybe we'll hit up the Uno tables while we're there.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of, a little bit of gambling, nothing crazy. We're not putting rent money or mortgage money on it or anything like that. But, I have, through the Hard Rock app, made some bets on the Magic for this upcoming season, which kind of a heart pick, but the value is also great. You look at that, it's like, well, you put $10 down, you could win 400. How can you turn down those kind of odds? And nothing would be better than for the Magic to win a title and then be like, oh yeah, I'm also getting $400.
Right.
From this,
you can put it all towards Magic Championship merch. There you go.
Yeah, actually, that's a pretty good point. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
That's exactly what you do. I know it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, to think about the amount of stuff we would need to buy. People got a little bit frustrated, I think, with us in the last couple of videos for just daydreaming too much, but I don't know. I think that's kind of half the fun.
Yeah, everybody close your eyes. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're not doing that this time.
Yeah, not doing that again. All right. Let's go ahead and put a bow on this one once again. Really thanks to our friend Dan Savage for joining the show. As always, this has been Jonathan Osborne for Kevin Tucker. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!